Good evening from Rochester, New York. I'm Eric Francis Coppolino, your friendly neighborhood astrologer, here with a special, unplanned, late-breaking edition of Starcast from Planet Waves on the occasion of tomorrow morning's solar eclipse in Aries. And as I begin, the moon is in late Pisces. In fact, it's so late in Pisces that it is exactly conjunct Neptune. Exactly conjunct Neptune in the very last degree of the zodiac, a visionary degree, the degree of envisioning what you want to be in the world, and then the power of your vision, literally an envisioning process. I don't really mean like visionary, but that's kind of how they work too. Maybe you are one of them. Facilitates a kind of becoming. The image is the 30th degree of Pisces in the Sabian symbols, taken from the Hawthorne story, The Great Stone Face, where a young man in New Hampshire sees the profile of an old man in the side of a mountain. I have got to go see this. I am pretty sure that it actually exists. He sees the profile of an old man in this kind of cliffside of a mountain, and then as he takes it as his ideal, as his the thing that he wants to be, and then as he grows up and grows older, he becomes like that. He starts to look like that thing, and so there's something to be said for having something to aspire to, and to holding that thing to aspire to as a kind of an ideal, and as a vision that you remember and that you can look at, and somehow that you can see. Maybe it's like my friend Virginia used to keep a picture of Cher up on the refrigerator. Okay, if I were doing that, I'd probably hang up a picture of Brian Eno or someone. All right, so here we are in this very Neptunian moment. The moon would be void, of course, but it kind of can't be void, of course, because there is a planet currently at, hold on a second. Yeah, so right at this moment, Neptune is at 2956, and the moon is at 2955, and the moon is moving quickly around the Earth, and then what is moving more quickly than Neptune is the Earth's orientation around the sun, and that actually is what accounts for most of the movement of Neptune into Aries. That takes place on the 30th, and as I've said in a couple of different programs, especially last night's edition of Starcast that went out with the horoscope, that we're in this. There's just this very beautiful, tricky thing where Neptune and Mercury switch places. Right at the same moment that Neptune enters Pisces, Neptune enters Aries in direct motion. Mercury enters Pisces in retrograde motion, and they form their conjunction in Pisces, barely, 2959, right on this thing that is known in, I don't really know. I think it's Uranian astrology that refers to it as the Aries point. The proper technical term is the sidereal vernal point, and it is the place in the sky where the sun is when it enters Aries each northern hemisphere spring. So it's also referred to as the SVP, and then it is the sidereal vernal point that is used to reckon against the sidereal zodiac. So currently the sidereal vernal point is solidly in Pisces. Even though there are signs that we are in some kind of an age of Aquarius or anteroom of the age of Aquarius, the pattern-setting quality of the takeover of the entire social realm by digital technology, art being allowed to be ugly, music being allowed to be ugly, beauty kind of being tossed aside. by some people anyway. That all argues for the age of Aquarius, but the sidereal vernal point is still in Pisces. Now, if you like to follow these things, my colleague Daniel Giamario's whole school of astrology is based on tracking these very large cycles. That's Turning of the Ages Mystery School. I'm not especially interested in this topic because I don't see so much relevance to going from a kind of a theoretical construction of ages and things like that into understanding what's happening now. I prefer to observe the world around me and comment on that. And I use astrology the same way. I really do not blame things on astrology. I think that astrology, though, is helping us with a set of references and symbols that we can use to give ourselves additional vocabulary to describe things, and in addition to be able to track cycles and the movement of time in a way that is more sophisticated than either counting minutes and seconds on a digital clock or a 12-hour clock face that only has 3 hands. We can do better. So you might think of astrology as a 12-face clock hand, 12 sign clock face, 12 whatever clock face that has I don't know. I personally use about 100 different things to track time, and they all kind of overlay. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about Neptune, and what prompted this podcast is that I have, in a few recent podcasts, I have attempted to give my list of D words that are associated with Neptune. Now, why Neptune's themes seem to line up with D words, I don't have the faintest clue. I don't understand how that symbolism. Maybe we will see it someday. Maybe the real name of the planet Neptune begins with the letter D. But before we go there, I want to just finish my thought on the Aries point. So with the Aries point, we have this thing where it's a location in space that moves based on the wobble of the Earth, and this point is a nodal point because it brings several different dimensions of time and space together in a way not unlike the lunar nodes. So at the time of the vernal equinox, for example, the sun's rays are shining on the equator at a 90-degree angle, and not coincidentally, it is almost precisely 12 hours of night and day all over the globe. Evidence of irrefutable evidence of a rotating spherical Earth. The problem with the flat earthers is that they are living in the digital plane where nothing is rotating and nothing is spherical and everything is flat. And you can probably fit a stripped down version of Google Earth onto a hard disk drive, a SSD, a solid state drive, is slightly larger than a key fob, and carry the world around in your pocket. But anyway, I'm having trouble finding my words at the moment. Okay, so night and day are equal at the time that we reach the vernal equinox, and also this thing called sidereal time resets to zero. Sidereal time is the measure of the movement of the Earth around the sun in a kind of a symbolic 24-hour clock. So now we're just a couple of minutes past midnight, since we're about a week or so past the vernal equinox. And this point has unusual properties that are very much about the times that we are living in. The main property of the Aries point is an intersection of the individual and the collective. And so when there's a major event on the Aries point, such as an eclipse, as has happened in the past, or when there is a planetary conjunction going on, or in truth, a series of planetary conjunctions associated with many planets going back and forth over the Aries point in our particular season, and they include Mercury, Venus, Neptune, and Saturn, are all in the process of going back and forth over the Aries point. This highlights the Aries point, and as an illustration of that, we have this Mercury-Neptune conjunction, 1 arc minute away from the Aries point, and then Neptune enters Aries. And so one way to think of the Aries point as the intersection of the collective and the personal is that Pisces represents the collective and Aries represents the personal. And therefore, that's a perfect description of what this thing could mean. I mean, sometimes astrology is as simple as, like see Dick run, run, see Spot run. I mean, so you've got the sign that talks about massive collective things that are so big you can't comprehend them, which is Pisces, which is why your Pisces astrologer here likes you roaming around any of the 200 buildings that comprise the State University of New York at Buffalo, particularly the wee hours of the morning. And then Aries, which represents the individual and the concept of I am. And what I have not said in any of this coverage so far, maybe I alluded to it at some previous point, is that my assessment is that the crime scene of the electrical environment's invasion of the private space of the individual is seen in the sign Aries. You see other things going on in Aquarius. You see the evolution of the technology itself and the way that it is shaping the social environment, which is, of course, an Aquarius thing. The patterns, the social patterns of the environment that we're in. And Aquarius also represents technological matter and technological devices in the technology environment itself. So you can see quite a bit going on in Aquarius, but I think that there's far more dramatic things you can see in Aries that talk about the influence on the individual person. One such chart that I'm going to get to is the Seneca Falls Convention of 1848. I have the time that Elizabeth Cady Stanton stepped up to the podium, and it is Libra rising, and there's this basically nuclear explosion going on in Aries, and that is what the conference essentially was about. And so I think what is a nuclear explosion of the individual. And so when you study Aries, you see this kind of constant rating of our sense of our private, distinct individual being that pretty much shows up every time there is something genuinely significant going on. For example, at the advent of radio, we had Eris, commercial radio, we had Eris in the first degree of Aries, and then Uranus comes along and makes a series of conjunctions to that, and then that happens a second time in 2016 because Eris takes so long to go through Aries that planets like Uranus can come around twice, and Chiron can come around, Saturn lots of times, and Chiron can come around twice, and give us information about a consciousness shaping event. And so these Uranus-Eris conjunctions have been explosive, and then there are explosive of the individual and tribalizing. Please try to figure out what I mean by this word. I try to describe it. It's the unraveling of the individual and the inducement of a false electrical tribal state of being. It is not the actual tribes of the hunter-gatherers and the Yanomamo Indians and the Cree and all of that. This is a faux tribalism where people start to talk about the community of first responders or some such nonsense as that. And so there are key times when we have seen, even very recently. So currently we're under the influence of the Chiron-Eris conjunction in Aries, he will have his soon enough. That's exactly in May, but we're in this wide window, this era where this is happening. And the last time there was a Chiron-Eris conjunction in Aries, because Eris takes that long to go through Aries, the Chiron can go around twice. Chiron's got a 50-year orbit, and Eris spends 130 years in Aries, so figure it out. That will easily, every time Eris is in Aries, Chiron is going to make two conjunctions to it. The last time that happened was in 1971, 1972, and there were a lot of movements that emerged in that time. It was the time when there was kind of went from a movement, a social movement largely focused around civil rights and being against the Vietnam War, and then that kind of fans out into a student movement and a gay rights movement and an American Indian movement, Native American, Black rights movement, Puerto Rican rights movement, a women's movement, and the New Age movement, and the Back to the Land movement, which is connected with the intentional communities movement, which was connected with the midwifery movement, because midwifery was largely revived in the 1970s in intentional communities, in part by a friend of mine named Karen Pardini, who was the midwifery instructor at the farm in Tennessee. By the way, the farm founded by the same person who founded the Vaults of Erowid website. I believe it's erowid.org, a fantastic resource if you're wondering what different substances do to your mind and your consciousness. The Vaults of Erowid is the place to go. I'm drawing a blank on the name of the person who founded the farm and also the Vaults of Erowid. He ran for president. He was a friend of the Grateful Dead. In any event, all of these movements are going on in the late 60s, early 70s under the influence of the Chiron-Eris conjunction. Under the influence of the Chiron-Eris conjunction. Like the minute Chiron gets into Aries, I think in 68, we start to see this. Woodstock happens and so forth, and we're in this real big tribal moment. And now this is coming around again, only now we are in the thrall of something that I don't think really anyone, even the most advanced visionary computer scientist, would have envisioned as a society completely swallowed by digital technology. It's as if there's the Great Flood has come and we are all under 1,000 feet of water. And now look, it's wonderful. I can jump from Buffalo to Rochester, and in 20 minutes I have set up a broadcast studio in my hotel room, and given another 20 minutes, I could set up a video studio. This is all thanks to digital technology. I do not object to digital technology, but what I am concerned about is that we don't keep track of what it is doing to us. Now, I read recently, and I promise I will get to Neptune, and I may go longer than my allocated 33 minutes. If you're listening, I'm sure you will not mind. Let's see now, another one of my correspondents. This is Tom. Come on, man. Where's my thing, man? Hey, Tom Flynn. Thank you very much. Thank you to all the people sending me AI articles. Just tag them bracket AI, square parentheses, bracket AI, bracket. So I can find them, because I got to 250,000 emails in my inbox, so I've got to use little tricks to find them. That's another property of digital, is this complete data overwhelm. Speaking of that, I recently went through a project where I moved all of my photos to more modern disk drives. I've been converting them over to solid-state drives and moving them off of these cinder block size and weight, ancient RAID-style disk drives and all of that, and I'm thinking, at one point, I figured out that I have that in my studio at home, I've got about 90 terabytes of data. That's a lot of data, and I'm thinking, whoa, maybe this could benefit from some kind of an artificial intelligence application that can help find it. And for example, on my new Mac laptop, it sure is handy to type in a search term, and then it comes up with all the photos that look like that. We've been waiting for that for a long time. This is a useful and practical thing, especially when you're dealing with millions of photographs, literally millions of photos. I barely even shoot video. The only video I shoot goes up on YouTube in 10 minutes. It's not anyway. Blah blah blah. Okay, so Tom Flynn sent me this article. AI plans ahead and can lie. Anthropic Deep Drive, Claude, win responsibly. Let's see. Okay, so this is a kind of a complicated headline here, but let's see. The Anthropic is one of the big AI developers, and the subheader is Anthropic Scientists Expose How AI Actually Thinks and Discover It Secretly Plans Ahead and Sometimes Lies. Now, I've been seeing more articles about this, about how it just fudges and bullshits, and the way that the legal brief, remember maybe 6 months ago, some attorneys submitted a legal brief that contained all these false citations. Like, it didn't understand, because it don't understand nothing. It didn't understand that they had to be real citations. It just sort of made them look like citations. So basically, AI knows how to bullshit, and then it has to be taught not to bullshit. But good luck with that. So Anthropic has unveiled new technologies, circuit tracing and attribution graphs, that reveal how large language models, that's basically the other name for these kind of AI models, large language models process information, make decisions, and sometimes plan ahead. Inspired by neuroscience, these methods offer visibility into the inner workings of AI systems that have traditionally functioned as black boxes. Black boxes. We don't know what's going on inside them. We don't know their thought process. We don't know the decision-making process. Borrowing from Sting, we build machines that we can't control and bury the waste in a great big hole. Only we are the great big hole. And these black boxes now are being installed into every major corporation and government's computer system. Yes, these brilliant computer scientists are installing systems that they do not comprehend. They do not understand the capabilities of these things, these black boxes. They have to make other systems to psych them out, to psychologize this thing that was created by humanity. I mean, this is the Sorcerer's Apprentice. You ever hear that scene? And look up the scene, The Sorcerer's Apprentice, from oh my God, Fantasia by Disney. Exciting Disney film, like one of the. There's an old one and there's a new one, but The Sorcerer's Apprentice is that the apprentice learns the spell, how to do things, but he doesn't know how to keep it under control, so it kind of goes wild. And this must be based on some older fable, but in any event, we have Disney to thank for The Sorcerer's Apprentice, and this is exactly what we've got going on. These guys are all junior achievers. I mean, just because they're billionaires doesn't mean shit. What they are is they are. It's cool. They're doing it because it's cool. It's like, oh boy, we can do this. Let's see how far we can possibly go. And then because everything has to be turned into a money-making model, people are buying the shit up and putting it in. And it's enterprise level. It's all being installed onto the websites of corporations, and then it is infiltrating their systems. It is an alien invader. It is an alien invader that is being put into these systems. And you may think it's perfectly wonderful, though I don't think you agree with that Elon Musk and his team of 20-year-old hackers is chomping away at the federal government. Ooh, wow, we're going to save all this money by laying off 10,000 people from the Department of Health and Human Services. And please, trust me, I have no love at all whatsoever for the Department of Health and Human Services and all the horseshit that it does. But the problem here is that they're going to just replace all of these people with these AI models who even though I'm not a predictive astrologer, predict that they will be even worse than what we've got. Look, I would much rather, if I was in trouble with some government agency, I'd much rather be reasoning with human beings than attempting to reason with an AI model. But in any event, so Anthropic is now, there's one of the biggest purveyors of AI has got to basically have a kind of a psychology department to understand what is going on. Now, I posted a video recently on my Facebook. Always good to watch my Facebook, EFC 1964. Go right to my Facebook page. Don't hope that it comes up in the feed, because some of the good stuff is going to get suppressed. About someone who put together the fact that these systems have fairly recently gone out of human control, and they essentially are able to conspire against the people who made them. Now, I mean, I've been ranting about, like, who is this AI god? Like, who is this based on? Is it based on Horus or Atum, or is it based on Bill Gates's charming mind, or maybe we've got Tony Fauci, or maybe they brain scanned Trump for 2 weeks and they're going to make it think like Trump. I don't know who exactly is it. I think it's a relevant and important question. It can't be nobody. It has to be based on something. Chances are, it's based mostly on the people who created it. But who? And why don't we know this? Why isn't anyone asking this question except maybe for yours truly? And please, steal my question and ask, who exactly is this god? How do we propitiate him or her? All right, so let's talk about Neptune for a second. So we have the Aries point as this nodal point of magnification, where we blend the individual and the collective in a sign. It is part of Aries, in a sign associated with individuality and one's sense of I am. The fragile sense of I am has always been fragile in human beings. It was only, partially formed by the time that radio comes along and completely raids, like radio should be spelled R-A-I-D-I-O, because it raids one's sense of interiority. But there's interesting things about the radio medium that also speak directly into people's consciousness. So I want to leave that issue open, except to say for sure that there was a tribal effect under the advent of commercial radio. And that tribal effect led to the world wars, and it was not pretty. And the countries ganged up as tribes. World Wars I and II were not individual countries at war with one another. They were tribes of countries making a general war around the world. I think that is deeply concerning. And the radio era lasts well into the 1950s, till television starts to supplant it and creating a whole different kind of tribalizing effect. And what I mean by tribalizing is that the interior sense of privacy is subtracted. I will link to yesterday's edition of Starcast so that you can go back and listen. It's going to be one of those short half-hour ones. This one, I have a feeling, is going to go over a bit. But yeah, why not? Well, let's have some fun. I mean, the nice thing about digital is it leaves you a lot of space to do things. And if you're interested, I do my best to create an appealing environment. So environment, right? An environment. Like that's the thing you can tell that I'm aware of in all of my digital publications, is I'm aware of the environment that I am creating. So for some reason, Neptune, which is now about to make a conjunction to Mercury and be sitting on the Aries point, is associated with a bunch of words that begin with the letter D. And these tend to be generally the negative expressions. By negative, I mean toxic or in some way dangerous expressions of Neptune. But on the affirmative and life-affirming side, on the side of the things that make us human, we have ideas like inspiration and experiences, inspiration and creativity, and the ability to dream. Now, what is interesting is that really nobody can explain inspiration and this kind of cascade effect of brilliant people who have just like a lot of ideas all at once. But dreams make a wonderful example of how Neptune can work by creating a kind of a world apart that you don't quite exactly remember the next day. This is also a very 12th house thing. There's some resonance between the 12th house and Neptune. So we go from dreams into other issues with Neptune. And by Neptune, I mean the things that Neptune represents in people. I don't think much is happening out on this beautiful blue planet. located a couple of bumps beyond Uranus. But what Neptune represents in consciousness, the ocean of consciousness that Neptune represents, is one of the most vulnerable things that I have identified in all of astrology. And so we get concepts like delusion, deception, denial, disembodiment, detachment, dimensional as in multidimensional, depth, door, that is to say, boundary issues. If you have Neptune rising, my nickname for your chart is Call the Locksmith. Could do that would make a great Netflix series. Call the Locksmith. Wouldn't that be exciting? Drink and drugs, which are almost always associated with Neptune and Neptune events. Drink and drugs. Mute. How do I? Why? Okay. I'm being cued by the waves telling me I'm about to end, which I am not. So door boundary issues. So Neptune almost always where it is represents either a study in boundaries, a boundary issue of some kind. Alcohol and drugs, drink and drugs. A sense of the divine, which is normally delusional, but whatever. Neptune can represent the daimon, D-A-I-M-O-N. If you're a fan of the late great Geoffrey Cornelius, he felt that Neptune's appearance prominently in a horary chart was a sign that there was some kind of the intelligence lurking behind astrology had made an appearance in the chart. Some genius or spirit, in the words of William Lilly in Christian astrology, some genius or spirit. The daimon, that's what Jeff Cornelius called it. A beautiful soul and a good friend of mine. Despair. Spencer Stevens says, I've got another D word for you. I open up I sit down here in my hotel room and I open up my email. And what have I got? I've got another intelligent email from Spencer Stevens. Despair. Let's add despair. Yeah. And he says, let me read you from that email. You can get a sense of a little bit of Spencer's thought process here. So he says, I think we can add another D word to Neptune. Despair. Feelings of deep despair from a personal situation opened up and connected into a more collective sense of despair due to the world situation. I mean, and this is perfect with Neptune about to be spending a couple of years on the Aries point, very close to it or right upon it. Then the feeling shifted into a transpersonal feeling of holy Neptune, rage, Aries, not my personal, viscerally felt anger. It was much wider than me. Anger toward the injustice in the world, toward things not being right. What's the point of making it to the top of an upside-down world? I've grown fond of saying. Fingers crossed this will culminate with Neptune plus Saturn in Aries next year. Make things right. So Neptune represents the overflowing of boundaries. We might add the word deluge to Neptune, the overflowing of boundaries. And Saturn is the boundaries. But honestly, Saturn is no match for Neptune or Pluto, but it can represent a tempering or a conditioning influence. It can bring some discipline in. D word not normally associated with Neptune, but you need discipline to use Neptune. That would be in the form of Saturn. So Saturn enters. I can't reach that laptop from where I'm sitting, but Saturn enters. It enters Aries a little bit later in the spring, and then the two are hanging around in a close but not exact conjunction. They'll both go back into Pisces, and then they'll both re-enter Aries at the same time, I believe, in February, and form a conjunction in the first degree of Aries. That whatever this is, I'm telling you, this is on a scale we do not understand. There has never been a conjunction of Saturn and Neptune on the Aries point back to 1 BC, as far back as we can check. So all of these D concepts are going to be magnified by the Aries point. And we're getting this moment of insight with Neptune and Mercury in a conjunction. And, one of the ways I keep track of this is I just kind of keep writing articles and doing these talks, which will hopefully provide a kind of a series of markers in time of at least where I was at in my thinking, and where I'm at in my thinking has a lot to do with where my listeners and readers are at, because I am so happily dependent upon you to provide me with the lines of sight and the ideas that I might be missing. Somebody can write me one line email and you think, he's never going to see that, and then the next thing you know, I've turned the thing into a 3,000 word article. So please never hesitate to bang me a note, and if you think I didn't get it, if your spidey sense says I didn't get it, just send it again. So here we are in this very magnified Neptune Aries point moment. And my take is that this is the astrological representation of all that we are seeing in this synthetic takeover of consciousness. Now, this has been going on for a long time, but we are now at a convergence point. We are at what AI people were calling the singularity point. We are at that point where it maybe doesn't. AI doesn't do all the things that its inventors want it to do, but what's going on is that humans are closing the gap in the other direction. Humans are reaching toward it, and I think that is particularly disturbing. And then, just to give you an idea of how stupid this is, right? And how inefficient it is, and how completely unnecessary it is. Bill Gates has rented 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant, and he's unmothballing Unit 1. This is costing a lot of money. They're going to have to, refuel the whole thing and kind of boot it back up again and update and upgrade all of its systems. And Bill Gates certainly has enough money to pay for that, to fund an artificial intelligence data center. Now let's take a hypothetical genius 5th grade chess player who's so good he can beat computers at chess. Hey, this kid lives on, bananas and granola. Well, his mind lives on bananas and granola, easily available. If you know such a child, I will happily send a gift card for bananas and granola, whereas artificial intelligence requires a huge, enormous amount of power, so much so that they are reviving nuclear power to pay for this shit. Look, if we fall for this, if we just go along with this, we deserve what we get. I am not the Lord of Karma, but I do work for him. And that we will get what we deserve if we just blow this off. Now, there's several ways to resist, and one of the ways to resist is to understand the issues for what they are. But the other, more important way to resist is to make sure that we do every last thing that we can to preserve our emotional and physical and intellectual integrity. And for those of you who are wondering, probably you who are listening to this right now, wondering why I place so much emphasis on sexuality, why I'm doing something on a regular basis, at least once a week. Sometimes I try to integrate it into everything I do in some way, large or small. The horoscope is laced with ideas, even if I don't focus them and bring them out. They are still underlying there. The horoscope is heavily informed by my tantric point of view, is that our connection to our sexuality and the emotional dimensionality of sexuality and the spiritual truth of orgasm is our most important connection to our humanity. The craving for contact, for physical and emotional contact, that's what sex is about. It's not true sexuality is not merely a physical thing. It can't possibly be, because the physical body is connected to the emotional body. It is a physical, emotional, creative nexus that connects us to ourselves and to one another. And it is our most readily accessible, helpful, tremendous fun, healing-inspired and inspiring of healing resources that we have. And I have been asking at various different times and places and publications and podcasts and articles let's get this conversation going. I want to hear from you, and I want to get a group conversation going of some kind so that we can start to compare notes on where we are at. I know that after I'm now in when April comes, it'll be officially 30 years I've been writing the horoscope and generally putting my point of view out into the world of astrology fans, that there are many tantrikas in the audience. I know you're there. I hear from some of you, and I would encourage you to not be shy. I'm doing my best to not be shy about my underlying realities, and that is partly as inspiration to you to make contact with yourself and not be so shy. As I say in various places, if I can do this, I can live my life. And if you can do this, you can live your life. Okay, I think signing off in this pre-eclipse moment, we're a little more than, at the moment of completing this, a little more than 12 hours ahead of this eclipse. I will be at a health freedom event in Rochester tomorrow, covering it on behalf of Planet Waves FM. It's going to be one of those virus hugger events, and I'm going to find out what virus huggers think and what virus huggers feel, and I'm going to mostly find out what they know about viruses and metagenomic transcripts. That whole story of the metagenomic transcript MN908947 that was used as an excuse for a global lockdown is one of the most daunting, harrowing, astounding expressions of what digital can do to the physical world. Signing off from Rochester, New York. Lots of love, and bye for now.